Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I love these silly rock and roll Christmas songs, don't you? Good morning, I'm Reverend C.C. Coltrane, and welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Greater Dayton. If you're here for the first time, a special welcome and thanks for sharing your morning with us. On your bulletin cover is a tear-off strip that will tell us how to stay in touch with you. If you fill it out and take it over to the Welcome Center after service, the regular mailing list is simply for my Wednesday little blast of here's a pick-me-up for the middle of the week. We also put together an occasional newsletter about what's happening around here and send it out to you. So what we're really all about here is building a welcoming and loving community of people that who care really deeply for each other and about each other and for our planet, and offer each other that support and encouragement on this spiritual path we call life. So no matter where you are on the path, know that you'll find support and companionship and welcome here. Oh dear.
Sorry, I was trying to keep it quiet.
As long as that was an inanimate object and not you, we're good. Our pulpit assistant this morning is Stephanie Stewart. She'll also be doing the announcements at the end. Our vigil holder is Marge Russell, and our interfaith candle lighting will be done by Jerry Blumgold and Lana Mayhew. We do the interfaith candle lighting because, like Ernie, as Becky was talking about, like Ernest Holmes, our founder, we draw from the spiritual traditions of the world, not any one, but all of them, because there's wisdom in all of them and truth in all of them. So now it's time to greet each other. We don't want to make anyone uncomfortable, so if you're not in the mood for hugging, then just put out your hand for a handshake or stay in your seat. That's absolutely fine. We will hug each other for a few minutes and greet each other, and then we'll come back and sing our opening song, which is Deck the Halls with a Rock and Roll Twist. So prepare to dance, but first let's say good morning to each other.
We light the first candle in honor of Christianity. Self-rejection is the greatest enemy of the spiritual life because it contradicts the sacred voice that calls us the beloved. Being beloved constitutes the core truth of our existence. We light the second candle in honor of Buddhism. The Buddha nature is simply the birthright of every sentient being. Our Buddha nature is as good as any Buddha's Buddha nature. We light the third candle in honor of the Shinto tradition. Everyone has a spirit that can be refined, a body that can be trained in some manner, a suitable path to follow. You are here to realize your inner divinity and manifest your innate enlightenment. We light the fourth candle in honor of Hinduism. The soul appears to be finite because of ignorance. When ignorance is destroyed, the self, which does not admit of any multiplicity, truly reveals itself by itself, like the sun when clouds pass away. We light the fifth candle in honor of Islam. Stop acting so small. You are the universe in a static motion. We light the sixth candle in honor of Judaism. In the proverbial beginning, there was something like a tremendous explosion of godness, that at once created the universe and filled it. Now looked at one way, this was a disintegration. As the language of the text says, a descent of sparks of holiness into inner darkness. Looked at another way, it was the expansion of holiness to enlighten the darkness. We light the final candle in honor of the Native American religions. All things share the same breath. The beast, the tree, the man, the air shares its spirit with all the life it supports.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Today's reading comes from our founder, Ernest Holmes. It is through the teachings of the illumined that the spiritual universe reveals itself, imparting to us what we know about God. Jesus taught a power transcendent, triumphant, absolute, positive, against which lesser laws meant nothing. By its very presence, it heals. The mystics did not contend or argue with people. They saw and knew. They are the great revealers to man of the nature of the universe and the relationship of man to God. So will you take a few moments with me, please, to silently contemplate today's reading? And so here and now, I recognize and embrace and celebrate that God is all there is. That because of everyone present here today, God is present among us, within us, and as us. I recognize that this moment is an illuminated moment, illuminated in love. It is transcendent. It is healing. It is perfect, whole, and complete. And I know that everything that happens here and now is exactly as it should be. We are each here by divine appointment. All things are of God, for God, from God, and as God. I see this. We know this. We know that beauty and love are now revealed. And I am grateful. Grateful for all who are present, all who may hear, and all who may know. And so it is.
Someone gave me something sparkly to wear. I love sparkly. I do. So this month we're talking about the living spirit, and today we're talking about the personal experience of that living spirit. And our founder Ernest Holmes wrote, "What the world needs is spiritual conviction, followed by spiritual experience. It is far easier to teach the truth than to practice it." And I have to tell you that since my job is teaching truth, I tell you it's a lot easier to teach it than to practice it. It truly is, because it's always remembering who I am and what it is that I'm here to do. Because it's in the practicing that we sort of prove out the conviction, if you will. It's a personal thing for every one of us, because my spiritual experience is going to be different than your spiritual experience. There's not one spiritual experience that we can sort of look to and say that's it. It's different for every one of us. Our memories and our beliefs and the contents of our whole being is what makes us unique. And every experience we have is filtered through that whole content, and therefore unique to each one of us, including spiritual experience, including those numinous moments where we know there's something larger than us in the universe. And that's fabulous, because that means that our spiritual experiences are tailor-made for us, truly. You know, we get what we need to grow. And I'm not saying in any way that God visits hardships on us to make us grow. That's not what I mean at all. What I mean is that experiences of joy and wonder are tailor-made for us, and experiences of difficulty are there to show us, because we create them, just where we need to grow. They illuminate the places where our growth is needed. And so every experience is an opportunity to grow in some way or another. 30-ish years ago, when I was about 90 days sober, I had an experience in meditation. It became a numinous kind of experience, like a vision. I saw myself standing on the rim of Canyonlands State Park, a place in Canyonlands National Park. It's a couple of thousand feet from the top to the bottom, and you're standing on the edge looking down, and all of a sudden it felt like a giant hand pushed me off the edge, and I fell and fell. It takes a long time to fall 2,000 feet, and fell and fell, and then something like a giant hand caught me right at the bottom and set me down gently and said, "I didn't bring you this far to drop you on your head." For me, that was perfect, because it took me a long time to convince myself there was no God, that there was only this body, and when it died, we were done. And when I came into AA, which I needed to keep me from dying, I used the group as my higher power, and still fought with this idea that there was anything more. And so this experience for me it didn't make me believe in a large human in the sky with giant hands. It made me believe that I was loved, and that I mattered, and that I was safe, and that I was in the right place. And that was sort of the opening for me to the whole idea of spiritual experience. And a lot of times we don't have these big experiences, we just have tiny little spiritual experiences, feelings, moments where we just know that we matter, and know that we have a capacity within us that we haven't even tapped, and know that there's something in the universe that's supporting us. There's a little story. I'm full of stories today, I'll just warn you. There's a little story about a couple of disciples of Lao Tzu who were talking, and the master said, they were talking about a particular saying from the Tao Te Ching, which says, "Those who know do not say, those who say do not know." The master entered, and they said, "Master, master, what does this mean?" And he said, "Which of you knows the fragrance of a rose?" They all knew the fragrance of a rose. And then the master said, "Put it into words." And of course no one could. So most of the time there are these feelings, these experiences of spirit that we can't really talk about. There's an old saying that says, although the wind is powerful and you can feel its presence, you can't see it of itself. You can only know it's there by its effect on things. The trees bend and sway, and the grasses wave, and the ocean is pushed along by the force of the wind. If you're aware of your surroundings, you know it's there long before you feel it. And so it is with the ineffable, this indescribable something that's in the universe. So it is with the ineffable. We know of its existence because of its effect on us and on the world, and part of the personal experience of the divine, therefore, is looking for that evidence, looking for the swaying in the grass and the moving of the branches of the trees. We have to watch so we can say, oh, here is the wind. Here is the wind. Why worry about the wind? Why even worry about any of this stuff? Why should we attune ourselves to the presence of spirit? And I think there are lots of good reasons to open ourselves to that personal experience. When we experience the ineffable, it strengthens our belief in the ineffable. Ernest Holmes wrote, "I would rather see a student of this science prove its principle than have him repeat all the words of wisdom in the world." Once we prove it to ourselves through our own experience, we believe it more completely. It is done unto us as we believe. So the more we believe, the more we're going to experience it. Noticing our own personal experiences of spirit, which I think happen a lot, we just don't pay attention to them, or we don't acknowledge them. It's like noticing the grass waving in the breeze. It's like seeing the waves on the ocean. It is a reminder that there is an intelligence and a power that doesn't care what you call it. It works through you all the time anyway. It's always there. The other thing about it is that one of the ways that all of the mystics describe this presence and this power is to say that it is always seeking to express itself more fully. So when we attune ourselves to that wind or that fragrance, we start to get information that is for us. There are always opportunities and invitations for us to express spirit more fully, to more completely embody the truth of ourselves. And the truth of ourselves is that we're not here to be dropped on our heads. I know that. I know that. We're here to be the greatest expression of life that we can be. And so when we notice, we start to hear the invitation. We're always being invited to dance. And we start to hear the invitation when we make ourselves, look around and say, what's the evidence of the wind here, And third, becoming aware of those moments of experience of the ineffable is what I call food for the journey. Sometimes life is difficult. We know that. We all know that. It's fuel for the work that we have, which is seeing that even in the difficult times, God is present. Spirit is present. Whenever we look at this vision that we have as an organization of a world that works for everyone and say, yeah, right. That's when we have to get food for the journey, fuel for the undertaking, if you will, of making our individual lives heaven on earth. Because as we make our individual lives heavenly, our community becomes heavenly, our towns and states and country and world become heavenly. So when we have that little experience of the divine in the sunrise or the sunset or the bird song, or when we really deeply experience another person and have that little sense of recognition, it helps us keep moving forward. It helps keep us moving forward. All that being said, there is no way to give anyone a personal experience of the divine. There's no way to say, today I'm going to experience God deeply and personally. All we can do is make ourselves available. Any of us can do is think about how other people who have been deeply open, the people Ernest Holmes calls the mystics, have experienced it. All we can do is share ideas and practices that make us more receptive to a personal experience. All we can do is kind of try and tune our ears and eyes and hearts to the miracle frequency, if you will. So I have stories for you. And the first story is a story about a monk who lived in the mountains of Greece, and all of his life he wanted to make a pilgrimage to the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. He thought, I'll go to the Holy Sepulchre and I'll walk around it 3 times and I'll kneel down and then I will be changed. I will come home a different man. And he was a monk, so he was poor, so he pinched pennies and he begged in the sun, when he could, and he finally saved enough money to make this journey. And he walked out of the monastery gate and saw a man there in rags who was sad and poor and bent over picking herbs. And the man said, "Where are you going, Father?" And the monk said, "I'm going to Jerusalem, to the Holy Sepulchre. I know that if I will go there, walk around the tomb 3 times, kneel down, I will be changed. I will come home a different man." And the poor man said, "And how much money do you have for this journey?" And the monk said, 30 pounds. This must have been long ago, right? And the poor man said, "I have a wife and 2 children who are hungry. Give me the 30 pounds. Walk around me 3 times, kneel down, and go back into the monastery changed." And the monk thought about it and reached into his pocket and gave the entirety of the money to the needy man, walked around him 3 times, knelt down, and walked back into the monastery a new person, because he'd finally realized that the Christ was in that man more than in some tomb far, far away. He realized that the Christ is not out away, far away, somewhere mysterious. It is right in front of us all the time. Mysteriously close, God is. So in abandoning that quest for the remote and the special, the monk discovered the profound truth and the experiences that were right in front of him. And so he was filled with joy, a joy greater than he'd foreseen even from his journey to Jerusalem. That's the first thing the mystics tell us. God is not far away, but right there, where we are and where those around us are. There's a Buddhist story about Nagarjuna, who's a great Buddhist sage, and he lived with nothing but a loincloth and a golden begging bowl that his disciple the king had given him. And one night he was lying down to sleep in some ruins, and he saw a thief behind one of the pillars, and he just pulled out the bowl and said, "Here, take this so you don't wake me up later." The thief grabbed the bowl and ran, and came back in the morning and said, with the bowl, and said, "When you gave this bowl to me so freely last night, you made me feel very poor. Teach me how to acquire the riches that make that kind of detachment possible." One more great story from the Sufi tradition. There was a great Sufi sage who he really liked luxury, and he lived in splendor. Even the tent pegs that he had were gold. And a wandering dervish walked by one day and saw this and said, "You call yourself a Sufi with all of this luxury?" And the Sufi invited him in and asked his servants to feed the man well and said, "Rest for a while." And then he came back and said, "Would you like to go to Mecca with me?" And the dervish said, "Yes." So the Sufi just took the man's hand and walked out the door and left. And they'd not gone far down the road when all of a sudden the dervish realized he'd left his little wooden cup. And he was really upset, and he said, "I want to go back and get my cup." And the Sufi said, "My friend, I left all my wealth behind without the slightest worry, but you are so attached to a cup of practically no value that you can't go to Mecca without it. Those golden tent pegs were driven into the earth, not into my heart." The second thing that the mystics tell us is not to worry so much about this worldly stuff as to what it tells, as to what our deepest self tells us is desired, so that we don't miss the opportunity to experience the divine because we're too busy worried about our worldly attachment. They tell us to work to loosen these attachments and relax about it a little bit. One more story. This is a Jewish story. There was a Jewish man who was headed home for the Sabbath, and his carriage broke down. So he ran and ran and ran as fast as he could, but he got into town just after the holy hours started. So his Rabbi Michael, gave him a really harsh penance, really harsh and long. And the man tried to do it, but he got sick. It was so hard, and his mind became affected. And he learned that the Baal Shem Tov, who was a very famous Jewish teacher, the Baal Shem Tov was going to be visiting nearby. So he went to him and he said, "Please rid me of this sin." And the Baal Shem Tov said, "Take a pound of candles, carry them to the temple, and have them lighted for the Sabbath. That's your penance." And the guy said, "Wow, that's really lenient. Are you sure?" I mean, this, he tried to argue with the Baal Shem Tov for a harsher penance. And the Baal Shem Tov said, "Just do as I say, and tell Rabbi Michael that I'll be celebrating Sabbath in Chostov, and he should come see me." So the man did. So on the way to Chostov, Rabbi Michael's carriage broke down. And he ran and ran and ran and ran and stepped over the threshold just after the holy hours had started. And the Baal Shem Tov said, "Good Sabbath, Rabbi Michael, my sinless friend. You had never tasted the sorrow of the sinner. Your heart had never throbbed with that despair, so it was easy for you to give out penance." The other thing the mystics tell us is to remember that we're all in this together. We all suffer from the ups and downs of life and the difficulties and the being late and the vicissitudes of being human. And sometimes we're poor and sometimes we have full pockets and sometimes we're very strong and other times we're weak. And we're all in this together. When we judge each other, it keeps us from embodying love. And embodied love is the essence of a personal experience of the divine, I think. When we remember that we're all subject to all the slings and arrows of life, that shared susceptibility keeps us open-hearted and humble and open to each other, so that when we walk out the door of our monasteries and see someone there, we can see that that's where the Christ lives, right there in front of us, not somewhere far away. And these kinds of things are the ideas that then we bring to our spiritual practice. Meditation and prayer and service and gratitude and generosity and all those things. And then we open more and more and more, and we become more willing to take the steps necessary to sort of be in sync with the sacred around us, to notice the wind moving through the grasses, to see in each other's eyes that spark of divinity and life. When we work on that willingness to see the sacred, and we check our attachments to all the worldly things, and when we remember that we're all on this journey together, that's how we make ourselves available for these experiences of spiritual, what would you call it? It's enlightenment, I guess. It's a little tiny drop of enlightenment that hits us when we open ourselves to it. And so one day, because of these practices and these ideas, we have an experience where the joy we've longed for manifests itself effortlessly and easily, and all of a sudden our lives are filled with joy. We look into the eyes of someone and see God there, and open ourselves a little more widely. We begin to orient our lives around service and meaning and joy and love, and we start to recognize our oneness with everything that exists. We start to see that we're part of a family of being. And then we smell the rose. Then we catch the fragrance of that rose that's not of this world, but of all worlds. We start to understand it more and more deeply. Not as something we can talk about, but as something we can feel. So right now, let's drop our consciousness, our conscious awareness, down into our hearts. Down into that quiet place where the worldly and the divine meet, right at the center of our being. It is in this place that we find that fragrance. It is in this place that we feel the caress of the breeze on our skin and know it as evidence that Spirit is present. This is the place where we open to the ineffable and all the joy and peace and harmony that opening brings. Right here and right now, God is. Right here and right now, all of God is present. Right here and right now, within each one of us. And in this community, as we come together, Spirit is present. Spirit with its invitations to dance. Spirit with its deep intimations of love. Spirit with its powerful beingness pouring through each one of us, showing up as each one of us, uniquely suited to do the one thing we came here to do, and that is to be all that we are, more and more fully, more and more completely all the time. I know that each one of us simply takes the time necessary to pause, to open, to think deeply about how we shift our vision so that we see God in the eyes of our neighbor. To think deeply about how we loosen our attachment to all that is worldly so that we may dance lightly. To think about how we simply stay open to all that life is bringing to us. Every experience tailor-made for us, giving us something we need. We think deeply about it. We say yes to it. We allow ourselves to feel that in truth we are the beloved. We are the beloved. We are the beloved. And how grateful I am to know this about each one here and about this community. That we actively seek to be informed by that breeze of spirit in all that we do. That we actively seek to love one another deeply, to be compassionate, to seek justice, to seek joy, to seek harmony and abundance and health. And I know that as we seek, we find, and how grateful I am. So I simply release these words into the infinite law of the universe. That law of God that always says yes, that has already said yes, that is always saying yes. I let it go, I let it be. And we say together, and so it is.
Just a thread, a simple thread in this glorious thread of life.
We are all just drops within a stream, flowing towards an ocean of light.
We may forget where we come from. We may forget where we're going to. I might not see that you're a reflection of me as much as I'm a reflection of you. Just a seed, a blessed seed with eternity unfolding in me. And I pray that as I grow, I will reveal the love that illuminates my soul. When I remember where I come from, remember where I'm going to, and I will see that you're a reflection of me as much as I'm a reflection of you.
Amen. We now have an opportunity to give in support of the work of our community here. Everything that you give makes it possible for us to be here and to have Sunday services and the classes and workshops and meditation and spiritual practice space that we offer, and to have a place where our kids learn how magnificent they are. So I invite you to simply stop and think about what you're grateful for about this community. And then think about all that you're grateful for. Let yourselves be filled up with gratitude. For life gives us so many gifts. So many gifts. Just count those blessings for a moment. It's this attitude of gratitude that lets our lives expand. As we say thank you to the universe, more begins to pour in. So we have more to say thank you for. What a miracle. And please repeat after me. My heart is open.
My heart is open.
I give from my open heart.
I give from my open heart.
I know that as I give, I am given to.
I know that as I give, I am given to.
And I am grateful.
And I am grateful.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Ooh, okay. Gotta shake up the show a little, right?
Shake it.
Okay, lots of announcements. First, yesterday was the day we spent with our veterans. Linda Andriaco arranged that, and it went exceptionally well. We were almost 1-to-1 with veterans and volunteers. So, good job, everybody. Please keep that on your calendar. Keep that in mind. Listen for that. We're going to go every other month. And a lot of the veterans that are accessing these long-term care services now are Vietnam veterans. And of course, they didn't get a great welcome home. So this is our opportunity to say thank you to them and let them know that they are loved and not forgotten. So I'm keeping an ear out for that. We'll go again in February. So there are 2 trees in the foyer right here. One is for 2 single mother families who don't have the means for Christmas, and the other is for an animal rescue program in Inglewood. Gifts for the families need to be here by Monday, December 19th, and actually quite a few of the tags are gone, so get them while they're there. The animal tree gifts can come in until January 5th, and so let's give everybody a wonderful Christmas surprise. Join us in the social hall as soon as we've finished for our annual holiday dinner. It already smells great. We have more than enough food. Please stay for lunch, and if you are able to stay after to help clean up a little bit, you will be loved, you will be appreciated, and you might just get some leftovers.
Always a good thing.
Where is Jane Robinson? Is she?
She's out.
Probably.
Jane Robinson and her crew, if anybody else was here to help decorate, if you want to stand up and be recognized, please do so. Thank you very much for all of the decorating that they did for the holiday dinner. It is beautiful, and wait until you go into the social hall and see it. Next Sunday, December 18th at 7 p.m. is the Laser Curtain with Carl Anthony. Take a soul break from the holiday rush and come and experience the beauty of this practice of chanting and breathing and resting and connecting, accompanied by music and a laser light show. Tickets are only $20 in advance and $25 at the door. Did I miss it?
Everybody's standing there who was helping to decorate.
Oh, they're back here. Everybody wave. Thank you. Kelly, yes. Don't forget Kelly.
Selma, Sharon. Where's Cynthia?
Cynthia, you know where she's
They're
hiding.
shy. Look at them. Stand behind her.
Stand behind the screen. Okay, the Laser Curtain, tickets are $20 in advance, $25 at the door, and if you pay in advance, we'll have your tickets available at the door on the night of the event with your name on them. Okay? Because Christmas falls on Sunday this year, and because our musicians would rather be home with their families, we'll have just one service on Sunday morning at our regular time. There will be no children's programming that day either. So join us for carols and a special Christmas message. Please take a look at the last page of the bulletin at the insert for more information on these and other activities coming up. Oh, goody. I get to introduce the Leadership Council. Will all the members of Leadership Council please stand? Who have we got?
Kelly and
Kelly, there's Louis.
Okay, we have Louis Dean Tuck over here, Kelly O'Keefe, Linda Adriaco, Lisa Schreiber, and our president, what's her face? Angie Smith. Yes, Ann Culkins. She's counting clothes right now. Okay. Yeah, did I get everybody? Oh, good. Yay. So please know that you can talk to any of these people if you want to share something you have about the center, or if you have a concern, or maybe an idea that you would like to share. So in your bulletin is a card. I don't think I have one up here. And it says, "We want to hear from you." It has a yellow flower on it. And on the back are a few questions. Please take the time to fill that out and put it in the wooden box that is at the table up by the door here. We would really love to know what your thoughts and ideas are about your center, our center. So on January 8th, plan to bring a friend to services with you. Over at the Welcome Center, there is a stack of white postcards that you can take and pass out to friends and family who might like what we're all about here. The postcards will help you invite them. We have a great service followed by soup and salad for lunch. So invite everybody, and this is being done at centers all across the U.S. So please stop and grab a card and bring a friend on January 8th. If you would like prayer after service, licensed prayer practitioners, any of the ladies wearing these, would love to pray with you. Just look for us, and we've studied and practiced and prayed for many years, and we like to try and see the spiritual truth for you even when you cannot. This is our gift to you, and we call it a 1-minute miracle on Sunday. You can also put a written prayer request in the prayer box on the table, which is somewhere. There are decorations on that table, right? Is it back there still? Okay. We'll pick those up after service. Thank you to everybody who made this morning's service possible, ushers and greeters, practitioners, the welcome team, everyone that has worked on this beautiful lunch that we have. Of course, the Higher Mind Band, and all of you. So if you will please stand now for our closing affirmation, and afterward is our closing song, one of my favorites, We Are One. Okay, so repeat after me, please. I look with the eyes of the divine.
I look with the eyes of the divine.
To see the divine all around me.
To see the divine all around me.
I hear with the ears of the divine.
I hear with the ears of the divine.
To hear the divine all around me.
To hear the divine all around me.
I feel with the heart of the divine.
I feel with the heart of the divine.
And love the divine all around me.
And love the divine all around me.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Have a great week, everyone.
You too.